Our weekly immigration news roundup is brought to you by the law firm of Figueroa & Associates. For consultation on any immigration or legal matter, please call 855-768-8845. That's 855-768-8845. For full stories and more immigration news, visit www.theimmigrantsjournal.com. That's www.theimmigrantsjournal.com.
Hello, my name is Mary Campbell, legal assistant at the law firm of Figueroa & Associates, and your presenter with this week's immigration news. U.S. Department of Education ends federal funding for undocumented immigrants in career and technical education programs. Washington, D.C. New policy restricts federal funds to U.S. citizens, permanent residents, and qualified non-citizens. On Thursday, July 10th, the U.S. Department of Education announced a major policy change that will end the use of federal funds to support undocumented immigrants in career, technical, and adult education programs. The shift, formalized through an interpretive rule published in the Federal Register, reverses guidance issued during the Clinton administration and aligns federal education funding with the requirements of the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996. PRWORA. Under the new interpretation, programs authorized by the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act, Perkins B., and the Adult Education and Family Literacy Act, AEFLA, under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA, will now be classified as federal public benefits. Consequently, eligibility for participation in these programs will be limited to U.S. citizens, permanent residents, and specific categories of qualified non-citizens. A stronger push for immigration enforcement. U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon explained the reasoning behind the policy change, emphasizing that taxpayer-funded education programs should benefit American citizens. Post-secondary education programs funded by the federal government should benefit American citizens, not illegal immigrants, she stated. Under President Trump's leadership, hardworking American taxpayers will no longer foot the bill for illegal immigrants to participate in our career, technical, or adult education programs or activities. The decision is in line with President Trump's Executive Order 14,218, titled Ending Taxpayer Subsidization of Open Borders, which pushes for stricter eligibility requirements for federal benefits. Additionally, the policy formally rescinds a 1997 Dear Colleague letter that had allowed undocumented immigrants to access certain educational benefits. The current administration argues that this earlier policy was inconsistent with the statutory language and intent of PRWORA. What this means for federal education programs. The interpretive rule does not impose new legal requirements, but clarifies the department's current understanding of existing law. While not legally binding, the rule will guide enforcement and monitoring efforts. Education institutions receiving Perkins v. AEFLA and Higher Education Act (EHA) funds will now be required to verify the eligibility of participants to ensure compliance with the updated policy. Enforcement will not begin until at least August 9, 2025. The policy expands on the restrictions set forth by Title IV of PRWORA, which limits federal public benefits, including post-secondary education assistance, to U.S. citizens and specific categories of qualified non-citizens. By broadening the definition of programs subject to these restrictions, the department aims to ensure that limited federal resources are allocated only to those who meet the legal criteria established by federal law. Next steps for education entities. In the coming weeks, the Department of Education will issue formal communications to all entities receiving Perkins B., AEFLA, and AEHA funds, outlining their obligations under the revised interpretation. As part of this process, grantees and subgrantees will be required to verify the eligibility of participants for federal education programs and ensure compliance with the new policy. This announcement marks a significant shift in the administration's approach to both immigration and education policy. It signals a continued effort to restrict federal resources for undocumented individuals prioritizing American citizens and legal residents for access to taxpayer-funded programs. Impact on American students and federal education spending. The policy change is expected to have a significant impact on students currently enrolled in career and technical education programs, particularly in regions with large immigrant populations. By limiting access to federal funds for undocumented immigrants, the Department of Education aims to focus resources on U.S. citizens and legal residents, which could affect program availability and funding across the nation. As the federal government tightens its stance on immigration, this shift in educational funding reflects a broader trend toward restricting access to federal benefits for individuals without legal status. The Department of Education's decision is a clear signal of the administration's commitment to immigration enforcement and its ongoing efforts to reshape the distribution of taxpayer funds. For more information on the new policy and its implications, education institutions and individuals impacted by the changes are encouraged to stay updated with official communications from the Department of Education.
Our weekly immigration news roundup is brought to you by the law firm of Figueroa & Associates. For consultation on any immigration or legal matter, please call 855-768-8845. That's 855-768-8845. For full stories and more immigration news, visit www.theimmigrantsjournal.com. That's www.theimmigrantsjournal.com.